فاصبر صبرا جميلا.
Ways of reciting the Quran. There's different ways of translating the lahan. All right. Here it's not meaning mistake. It's meaning a person what saying the Quran or reciting in such a way in which is just too much. It's extreme. A person is singing it. Everyone understand this? And stretching the med too long. Everyone understand this? Similarly to what you may hear from certain reciters. Everyone understand this? He says, so the ulama of Islam, they differ on this. Imam Malik, rahimahullah, karihaha, he didn't like them. And most of the ulama as well. And they say the reason why it was disliked, or haram, because the word makruh can mean haram, according to those older ulama, is that it takes the Quran's original aim away. And that is khushu' and understanding. And not just melodious singing. And you can see the wisdom behind this today. You find people that will listen to this type of singing or stretching of the recitation of Quran, and they'll love it so much. You ask them one thing, they can't understand anything. And they aren't interested in understanding anything. And you give them the recitation of the Quran, which is perfect tajweed, and they find it to be boring and dull. Am I making this up? Boring and dull. No one wants to pray Tarawih at this masjid. And this Imam's tajweed is precise, but he doesn't have a really nice voice, or he's not singing and, what? Everyone understands this is the reality. And you find them becoming bored of the basic way to recite the Quran. They become what? They become bored, and the same applies to knowledge as well. Storytellers, entertainers, LOL sheikhs, whatever the word is used. People can sit and listen to them for hours. But you get somebody with some hardcore knowledge actually teaching them, is boring. And obviously there's a balance. You have to appeal to the people. You have to keep in mind that they have attention spans that are limited. You have to keep this in mind, no doubt. But the sheer fact that a person is so burnt out, so jaded by a storytelling sheikh that he can't listen to a real actual khutbah, a real class, a real lecture, a real faida, because he's just used to just having that romantic nonsense. Allah loves you, you love Allah, and that's it, class. Close the book. That's it. That's what Islam is. And then you just stop and you search YouTube, surf YouTube, and look at all of the different topics and the conferences, and look at the different titles that they have. And it's always leaning towards something that's just beyond tangible reach. Think about it now. Think about it. It's nothing tangible. It's no real discussion of real issues being tackled. But it's just a bunch of sensational stuff. And the people, they're so used to that, when they come to the real knowledge, they what? I don't understand this. These are used to just drinking so much sugar, they can't enjoy what real tea is supposed to taste like. Or real coffee is what? Where's the sugar? They gotta dump it in there. You don't understand this? Because they can't appreciate what coffee is supposed to taste like. It's not supposed to be sugar with a little bit of coffee. It's supposed to be coffee with a bit of sugar and cream. Everyone understand this? And the same applies to ilm. The majority of the class, the majority of the khutbah, the majority of the lecture has to be tangible knowledge. And then you give a story, you make a joke, you appeal to the people, you give it some spice. But that's not supposed to be what? The core and the opposite. Everyone understand this? So he says this is the reason why those ulama disliked this. Why they didn't like Al-Han. As far as Abu Hanifa rahimahullah and some of the Salaf, they said that it's okay. And the reason why it's okay is because of the actual hadiths, the hadiths themselves. يَتَغَنَّى بِالْقُرْآنِ Hasan al-Sawt, beautiful voice, sweet voice. And they say that's included in that. And they say that it's a means of the people's hearts becoming soft. And the people having khashya of Allah Azza wa Jal. And the people turning towards the Qur'an. Shafi'i rahimahullah, when he was asked, he says once he said it's disliked, and once he said it's okay. And they said there's no contradiction between the two. And that is because he said this about a specific situation, meaning yes, and he said no about another situation. When a person is taking the rules and stretching the rules, disregarding the rules, abandoning the rules, then he said what? No. But this is a med, and there's nothing wrong with elongating it and making it sweet and soft, etc. Everyone understand this? So there has to be a balance. There has to be a what? A balance. And there lies no doubt certain recitations of the Quran, you can clearly see it's just too much. Too much soft, too much sweet, and not enough actual hardcore tajweed. And you find other recitations in the Quran in which the tajweed may be so precise that it becomes mechanical. It's robotic. It's extremely dry and rigid. And people, you can't get mad at them if they don't necessarily want to listen to that. So there has to be a what? A balance. And there are many, many reciters of the Quran, and many Quran specialists, many students and teachers of the Quran, which give both. And obviously people, they differ in their what? Their levels and their abilities, let alone their levels. But just, I don't have the ability to have a soft voice. My voice isn't sweet. That's what it is. Everyone understand this? So you have to pick what's beneficial what? For you. You have to pick what's a benefit for your own soul. And what you think is closer to piety, but without criticizing or scorning or looking down upon the next individual. That's where the problem comes in. And the same applies to knowledge and madhabs, as we've explained before. I choose to follow this way. The Shafi'i madhab, that's how I want to study it. I'm not being a blind follower, or this is how I want to study. Tayyib. Don't look down upon people who say, I don't follow a madhab, or I don't study madhab. Everyone understand this? And this is the problem, right, with oftentimes with people who are vegetarians. They just don't eat vegetables and things like this and says it's good for the body. No, meat is dirty, nasty, disgusting. It does this to your body. And they demonize people who eat meat. That's where the problem comes in with vegans. They just don't suffice themselves with that lifestyle. But they have to do what? Disdain your lifestyle from A to Z. This is brutality, this is criminal, this is da 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 da. And the person who eats meat says, well, the asl is with me. How long have people been eating meat for? How many years? They've been living. All the different inventions that we have in this world today, this conqueror, this scientist was a person who did what? Our teeth, and the list goes on. Our stomachs. Sheep don't have the same stomach as humans have. They don't have the same teeth as humans have. Everyone understand this? But the point is that it has to be what? Scorning. So the Muslims, this has befallen us. We have to scorn others. And that's not always right. To scorn somebody else. Everyone understand this? You have a preference, but don't scorn the next person. Everyone understand this? So the reciters of the Quran and its recitation, that's a very, very, very long discussion. And the last thing that I'll say here is that this goes to show you that the rulings of reciting the Quran must be based off of the Sunnah, the Hadith, and the proper fiqh. And there isn't a specific or special set of rules regarding the Quran and its recitation that are made up by the reciters. There is no, we have our culture and we can make up the rules. No. The Sunnah is dominant. The culture of the Quran reciters is supposed to be based off of what? Sunnah, Hadith. And not, well, it's okay to do this or to say this or to make it like this because that's what the Quran do. Everyone understand this? There's a huge difference between the two now. Everyone understand this? And you'll find many people today who specialize in the qira'ah. They have good voices, they're hufaz, they know qira'at, alhamdulillah. They come to the hadith and the rulings and they do what? The same thing, they'll scorn it. Oh, we're not bound by this hadith. We're not bound by what these ulama say. This is how I was taught to recite the Quran and my teachers. You understand this? And that's not correct. You understand this? That's not what? That's not correct. And this is why the sciences of hadith is the best science. Because it serves every other science. And all other sciences don't necessarily serve it. Hadith is the pour. It pours in everyone's cup. Those who study history, those who specialize in seerah, those who deal with aqidah, those who do dawah, those who do Quran. The hadith, it comes along and it does what? Pour, 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 pour. This is what the Prophet said. This is when the Prophet was born. This is what the Prophet believed in. This is how the Prophet recited. This is what the Prophet allowed of fiqh. Hadith science is the thing which gives the khidmah. It serves. And the other sciences are what? They're served and they aren't servers. Everyone understand this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sure knows best. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Jazakumullah khairan.